Assalamu alaikum, non-believers, or people who accidentally clicked on this video. Today we're going to hear rock-solid proof that the Quran is absolutely real and that Islam got it all right. Giving us this mountain of evidence is one Dr. Zakir Naik. So go ahead, doctor. Wow me.
All the other human beings, most of them, they are blindly following their parents. The Christian, he is a Christian because father is a Christian. The person is a Hindu because father is a Hindu. Most of the Muslims are Muslims because their fathers are Muslim. This atheist is thinking his father, his parents may be religious, but he does not believe in the gods which his parents worship. Most of the atheists, we realize, have become atheists because they believe in science and technology.
Well, I'm wowed. I agree. Most people's beliefs do come from their parents and their surrounding culture. And most atheists, but not all, do support science. Don't really know what the technology has to do with it, though. Pretty sure you have an iPhone, Dr. Naik. Well, probably not in this video. It's from the 90s.
These people think that science has advanced so much, we don't require any scripture, we don't require any religion, etc. The first question I asked to the atheist is that suppose there is an equipment, there is a machinery, which no one in the world has ever seen before. If it's brought in front of you, if it's brought in front of the atheist, and if we ask the question to him, that who will be the first person who will be able to tell you the mechanism of this machinery or this object, what can be his reply? What can he reply? Suppose a machinery who no one in the world has seen, if it's brought in front of the atheist, and he's asked the question, who will be the first person who will tell you the mechanism of this machinery or object?
Your wording of this is a bit strange, and I can see that you're directing the audience to your desired answer. You think finding a mystery machine can only lead to the conclusion that it has been designed by someone, and that also the most knowledgeable person about that said object would be that same designer. In most cases, this is a logical statement, but the idea that we need that creator to have existed for the machine to exist is mostly irrelevant. We have the machine. It exists. And we don't need to have the creator's name to understand an object. We found many objects throughout history whose origins were largely unknown, and with research and careful study have discerned the uses without any direct intervention from their creators, such as the antics mechanism. Based on your logic, you're also equating biological, replicating organisms with machines, which is not entirely a lie, but it is deceptive as people aren't built, they're born, and their inception is a process most of us understand. We can infer things about people like, he must have had parents because he exists, but to infer God because life exists is an infinitely bigger leap without any empirical data to support it. Also, even if I accepted your poor logic that thing exists, therefore creator, why is your brand of creator the right one?
Then ask him the next question. That how did our universe come into existence? So the atheist will tell us that initially there was a primary nebula. Then there was a big bang. There was a secondary separation which gave rise to galaxies, the sun, the moon, and the earth on which we live. This we call as a big bang. When did you come to know about this creation of the universe? So he will tell you about 30-40 years back, the scientists that discovered this. You ask him the question, but what you're talking about the Big Bang is already mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 30, which says, Avalam yaral lazina kafaru. Do not the unbelievers see, Anna samawati wal arda, kanat ratkan fasaknahuma, that the heavens and the earth were joined together and we clove them asunder. What you're talking about the Big Bang is already mentioned in the Quran 1400 years ago. Who could have mentioned that?
Stating that the earth and heavens were joined does not really imply the Big Bang, as the earth wouldn't have existed, and separating one from the other, or cloving them asunder, isn't accurate at describing the rapid expanse from a singularity that is described by the Big Bang theory. The earth, in fact, wasn't formed at the moment of the cloving asunder, but around 9 billion years later. Also, the fact that the earth is but an insanely minute particle in the vastness of the universe means that by explaining the formation of earth the way you have, is more than a little deceptive. It implies that earth at the time of its creation was unique. But we know that countless planets exist, and Earth is just a small blue dot in a vast ocean of celestial bodies. There is no difference between what you're saying and what some Christian apologists have said about let there be light signifying the Big Bang.
The light of the moon, is it its own light or reflected light? So the atheist will tell us that previously we thought the moon has its own light. Recently we have come to know in science, recently means 100 years back, 200 years back, we have come to know that the light of the moon is not its own light but a reflected light. The Quran mentions 1400 years ago in Surah Furqan, chapter number 25, verse number 61, that blessed is he who had placed the constellation in the sky and placed therein a lamp, a sun, having its own light, and moon having reflected light or borrowed light. The Arabic word used for moonlight in the Quran is munir or nur, meaning reflected light or borrowed light. Who could have mentioned in the Quran 1400 years ago that the light of the moon is not its own light but reflected light, which we have come to know recently?
I did some digging, and it looks like, first of all, nur appears in other passages of the Quran when referring to the light of Allah, or just light in general. No specification of it being reflected light. Second, even if it is a reference to reflected light was discussed by a Greek philosopher named Anaxagoras, who thought both the sun and moon were spherical rocks and that the moon reflected the light of the sun. That was in around 428 BC, over 1,000 years before Muhammad walked the earth. Did Allah let Anaxagoras in on it too?
The world that we live on, what's the shape of this earth on which we live? The atheist will tell you it is spherical. When did we come to know? So he will tell us, it was 1597 when Sir Francis Drake, when he sailed around the earth, that he proved that the earth was spherical. But the Quran says 1400 years ago, in Surah Naziat, chapter number 79, verse number 30, Wal arda ba'da zalika dahaha. And thereafter, we have made the earth egg-shaped. The Arabic word dahaha, one of its meaning is the earth is an expanse. The other meaning is derived from the Arabic word duya, which means an egg. And it doesn't refer to a normal egg. It refers to the egg of an ostrich. And we know the world is not completely round like a ball, but it is geospherical in shape. It is starting from the pole. And if you analyze the shape of the egg of an ostrich, that too is geospherical in shape. Who could have mentioned 1400 years ago that the shape of the earth is geospherical?
Except that in many passages of your perfect word of Allah, the earth is spread out, or laid out, or referenced as being like a carpet. So which is it? Flat like carpet? Or an elongated spheroid, like an ostrich egg? Which, by the way, is not the exact shape of the earth. I've also read that there is some measure of debate at your linguistic interpretation skills, but I don't speak or read Arabic, so that point is moot. But contradicting descriptions of Earth's shape or translation errors aside, perhaps you would be interested to know that the idea of a spherical Earth, like the reflective nature of moonlight, was also theorized by the Greeks, both Pythagoras and Aristotle, again, over 1,000 years before Muhammad. But I know you're gearing up to drop the proof hammer on me, right?
When I was in school, I had learned that the sun was stationary. It revolved, but did not rotate about its own axis. So the atheists will say, is that mentioned in the Quran? I say, no, that is what I learned in school. When I passed my school in 1982, approximately 12 years back, I had learned the sun was stationary, did not rotate about its own axis. But the Quran says in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 33, Huwa allazi khalaqa al-layla wan-nahara. It is Allah who has created the night and the day. Wash-shamsa wal-qamar, the sun and the moon. Kullun fi falaki yasbahun, each one traveling in orbit with its own motion. So the Quran says that besides the sun revolving, it even rotates about its own axis. Who could have mentioned this in the Quran 1400 years ago? And the atheist will be silent.
Moving with their own motion? That could mean so many things. I didn't hear the word axis once. In fact, it sounds as though the passage is describing the day and night cycle of Earth, the orbiting of the sun and moon, and that they do so independently of each other. Which is also wrong, because it sounds like the sun orbits the Earth, which is pretty typical of the geocentric attitudes of the day, so... Well, this video's been long enough. I'm sure you're saving all the very best evidence for my upcoming Quran Part 2, but probably not. Thanks, non-believers, for watching. If you like these videos, or have suggestions, feel free to like or comment. But even if you don't, I won't send you to hell. Because I'm not a dick.